Saturday was not great to Georgia. A little bit of disappointing news then, but some great news on Sunday. Georgia has landed five-star running back Nate Frazier out of California, Santa Ana, California. A lot of stuff going on out that way, Roos, and a lot of prospects out that way. And I believe this is the first one to make the call out of that trio of prospects there at Mater Dei High School. This is a massive one for Georgia because Nate Frazier is not your garden variety tailback.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And I've been clear, though, to say that Georgia was in a good spot, a great spot, really, with running back, even prior to this commitment. Dwight Phillips, an absolute burner out there. And then you bring in a guy like Chauncey Bowens, flip him from Florida, another guy that they love. He's out there putting the Nick Chubb workout on display on his Twitter, man. But you get Nate Frazier out here, man, and a complete back, a guy who does it all. I love the on-3 comparison for Nate Frazier of DeAndre Swift. They mentioned that the production's not quite there. He's played behind some talented backs there at Mater Dei High School. There's no question about that. But a guy, man, he just hits that top end so quickly, so powerful the way he runs. And personally, I kind of love that the production's not there. That means there's a lot of tread left on the tires, man. And, and I think he understands that at Georgia, even coming into a situation where there's two guys already committed, he's going to be able to kind of maintain that perhaps throughout his collegiate career as well.
Yeah, he's he's got a set of top of the line Michelins that he's running on to begin with, and there is a lot of grip left on those bad boys. He held his hand up right there on that long run, but the ability to get the top end so quickly is that thing that stands out to me. I like the DeAndre Swift comparison. It's solid. Reminds me a little more of Josh Jacobs at Alabama at the same stage. A guy that you feel like he's going to get bigger and stronger in college, and he's going to add 3 pounds here, 4 pounds there, 5 pounds. Next thing you know, he's going to be like 217, 218, 220, and add power to his game. But listen, man, one of the things I always look at it when I'm watching a running back is, you see that film right there, and if you see a crease, how quickly can he clear that crease? How quickly can he just explode through it? Because that's where the big plays come from. That's where those 70, 80-yard runs, if you can bust through that and get through there without anybody really getting a piece of you, that's how you run by safeties for touchdowns. And this kid does that. He runs with great balance. He runs with great vision. I am interested to know, though, and Charles Power and I talked about this a little while back, I am interested to know exactly why the carries haven't been there for him. I know you said there's been some talented backs, but he just seems like the kind of kid that you would want to touch the ball as much as possible.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that for sure. But by the same token, you mentioned, just how much bigger, how much stronger he can get. I think that all of that's got to be so intriguing for Georgia, man, and the ability to hit that top end. And, how does he factor in? I'll tell you this, the thing I love about him, and it goes to nothing to that production end, but this quote that he gave to Chad Simmons, and I know that Kirby Smart and company love this as well. He said, "I don't run from competition at all. I'm a competitor, and I want to be in a running back room where every day is hard, and I, not to curse, have to work my ass off. So that's not a problem for me." And he was talking about, coming in with these two other guys at Georgia. That's the kind of stuff that gets Kirby's blood raised, man. I mean, that's the blood pressure pumper for a guy like that. And, that's the mentality that Georgia's looking for in this running back room. And to be clear, too, they needed the help in this cycle. They needed to go heavy at running back. Just one guy last year, a little bit banged up going into the fall this year, probably thinner than they'd like to be at that spot. So going heavy here made all the sense in the world. I think that they have 3 tremendous guys committed to this class now. And Nate Frazier, as talented as those other 2 guys are, and they are highly, highly talented, would play at a lot of schools and be taken by a lot of schools. Nate Frazier, I think, stands ahead above them.
Yeah, it's tough. I believe that too. But then, the more you start to think about it, the more you think about, well, Dwight Phillips is probably not going to be your setback, inside zone type guy. He's going to get some jet sweeps. He's going to get some outside zone carries. They're going to throw him the football, things like that. Chauncey Bowens, fast guy in his own right. I mean, listen, we're not talking about a slow cat here. We're talking about a guy that can move. Another guy that gets the top end speed quickly. I think that he checks off some boxes from you from that batter and ram, maybe more of a feature back, every down back type guy. And then, obviously Frazier, I think, is kind of the best of both worlds. He gives you that speed element. I think you can motion him out to the slot and maybe play him in more of a Kenny McIntosh style role where he basically wears both hats for you. If you're trying to compare it to what you're looking at maybe last year, let's look at it like last year. Well, Chauncey Bowens is maybe more of your Zamir White type guy, looking at 2021. And then, James Cook, more of a,
White Phillips.
of your Dwight Phillips type guy. And then, then you get a guy that can do both, there in Nate Frazier. And I think that kind of enhances. And listen, we've seen, going back to that Josh Jacobs example, I mean, it was Josh Jacobs, it was Najee Harris, and it was Damian Harris all at one time there at Alabama. And all three of those guys helped do some big things, there at Alabama. And I think Georgia can kind of have that same three-headed monster. And Roos, I also think this tells us a little bit about the future. I think this is a little bit of a crystal ball for us with Georgia taking 3 in this class. I think you can go ahead and wave bye-bye to Kendall Milton and Dejon Edwards at the end of the season. Both of them are seniors. Both of them still have eligibility left. Fast fact, in case you haven't heard us say this enough, there's only one player on Georgia's roster that has to leave after this season, and that's Tramel Wildfire. So, Georgia doesn't have very many guys doesn't have hardly any guys that you have to go. Everybody has eligibility left. Milton could come back. Edwards could come back. But the fact that Georgia is set on taking 3 up front means to me that those 3 are definitely gone.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair to assume as well. And you mentioned something earlier, and I wanted to touch on it real quick. You talked about, kind of him being able to find that hole, get there, and just get up in it first thing. I think that's such an important thing in today's game, where you see a lot of running backs in the country trying to create in the backfield, guys who are trying to dance around, trying to make something happen, make a guy miss behind the line of scrimmage. You don't see these downhill one-cut guys as much these days because guys want to do it for the highlight. It's flashy, right? To shake off 3 guys behind the line and pick up 8 yards on it. You see that on huddle tapes all the time. The guy like this that can do this, I think, is becoming a hot commodity, and I think that Frazier on his film does this as well as anybody. And like you said, Georgia's going to need that help, especially if those guys decide to opt for the next level.
Tell you what, another thing that'll get Kirby Smart's blood, going is watching Nate Frazier pass protect and block like we're watching right now, because he likes that. Every offensive coordinator, every coach in the country wants their running backs to be able to pick up linebackers. I mean, listen, James Cook picking up Christian Harris on that blitz on the pass to A.D. Mitchell in 2021 was a difference maker. And Nate Frazier's showing you, I like doing this, and I'm good at this. He's not even technically sound at it yet. But you can tell that he's willing to do it, and it's part of his job right now. And that puts him ahead of the game a little bit, because I'll tell you what, man, I played high school ball. Not many of our running backs knew how to block anything. Okay, maybe a punt if we sent them after one, but those high school running backs are not keen on blocking. Nate Frazier's doing some of that already. Roos, before we let everybody go, just some parting shots on KJ Bolden yesterday, because big pickup for Florida State. I mean, I think that, the information was all over the place, and, we stuck with Georgia in the end. We got it wrong. I don't think either one of us was just supremely confident about that, but Florida State got a good one.
Yeah, no question about it, man. Tough to read through that one. Didn't know how it was going to play out. Mentioned that pretty consistently throughout. All we could go on was what we were hearing, and continued to hear Georgia, even, as recently as 2 hours out of that decision. And from people who I really trust and know, and have basically pointed me in the right direction a lot of times. So, I think it's a great pickup for Florida State. Would I pick them to sign KJ Bolden today? Yes, I would. Would I also bet on KJ Bolden taking other visits this fall? Yeah, I probably would bet on that as well. So, nobody's waving a white flag on a player like this. The relationships are long-term. He's close to Georgia, so it's going to be easy for him to get over on a Friday night if he wants to after a game, or come over for a Saturday after a late Friday night for Buford. So, we'll see what happens with it, man. The kid, I think, did a great job of murking up the waters, and, created some great hype for himself too. And he's a pro. He's handled it for a long time. He's been recruited for a long time. He's been in the spotlight for a long time. So KJ's a savvy guy when it comes to this whole process, and Florida State won out. And, I think that they've got a hell of a class that they're putting together with the Seminoles right now. Mike Norvell and staff deserve a lot of credit. I think, though, that it's going to be interesting to see how they develop it this year, how they are able to take these guys that they have currently on the roster, and how does it play out from there? And does that factor in for some of these guys, the results this year? We'll see about it. But Georgia, not going to stop recruiting KJ Bolden in the least. I feel very confident in saying that.
Yeah, 100%. And listen, I mean, if I would put good money on, I wouldn't put all of it, but I'd put good money on KJ signing with Florida State. I really would.
Okay.
But is it going to surprise me if he flips? No. And I'm not saying it wouldn't surprise me if he flipped Georgia. It wouldn't surprise me if he flipped to Auburn. That's recruiting these days, man. And people are going to go all out for this cat. When it comes time, listen, when it comes time and Auburn season's over there in late November and Georgia's trying to make a move and they feel like they have a need in the defensive backfield, people are going to circle back with NIL offers and last second pushes, and that's just the way this thing goes. It's not going to surprise me if anybody on Georgia's roster, other than maybe Ryan Puglisi, because I figured if he's going to do it, he'd do it already.
Sure.
But other than Ryan Puglisi, it wouldn't shock me. It just wouldn't shock me because that's the way this thing goes. But big win for Florida State.
Yep.
Listen, I know enough about this one and feel like I have a good enough read on it to think. I feel like this one changed probably multiple times in the last 8 hours before that commitment. I think this was probably more than one school at more than one time. And kudos to whoever got him. I don't care if you win with NIL or not, and I'm not even saying that's how Florida State won it, but you won. Winning is winning. And, I'll say it like this, like I told our board today. Florida State just ripped off an 87-yard touchdown against Georgia. The problem is that based on what we've seen, based on how Georgia's recruited this class overall, based on Georgia's success on the field, they did that to cut Georgia's lead to 30 points. Georgia's still way ahead. Georgia's still got a lot to be proud of. Georgia's still got a great program. Georgia's going to be just fine. But this is a huge get for Florida State, no doubt, and I don't think that can be taken away from them. And I have high expectations for KJ Bolden at the next level because I think he's a hell of a football player. Listen, we got a lot of other stuff coming up, but Williams-DeWary is going to be deciding here on August the 14th or August the 10th. Is it 14th?
I'd have to I got to double check it myself. Now you've thrown me off. Now you've thrown me off.
I want to say it's August the 14th because I wrote something a couple of days ago about it being in the next 10 days. We've got him coming up. That's a big decision. I think Georgia's definitely in that one. Chris Cole at some point. I like where Georgia is for him right now as well. There was a little bit of talk there about maybe Georgia limiting the inside linebacker class a little bit. I don't think that's going to be the case, and I think Georgia's going to make a good play there for Chris Cole. And then just kind of looking forward to other stuff. You got LJ McCray, who's going to be making a decision at some time. Georgia's involved in that one. Aiden Breland, a modern day kid there for Nate Frazier's teammate, will also be deciding. I think Georgia's in that one. Going down the line. I mean, listen, I expect Georgia to maybe get back in it for Mike Matthews at some point, or at least try. Whether they get any traction or not, I think they will. Make an effort there. So a lot of lines still left in the fire. This class is still very, very much up in the air for Georgia, and they're going to have to fight to hold on to some guys. I'm sure they are. Like we said a while ago, teams are going to circle back and try to get these guys off the commitment list. But any parting shots overall, Nate Frazier or otherwise?
I think that this is a huge get, like I said. And again, it's Georgia doing, I think, a nice job of kind of, controlling the narrative to some degree. You miss on Bolden, and then all of a sudden you come back and you back commitment. That takes the sting off of it. Obviously, not the same position or anything like that. It does help. It makes you feel a little bit better about it. And then, you're in it with some of the top names left on the board. There's like 50 kids out of the top 300 that are uncommitted at this point. All right. And we're moving into the season. So there's a lot of movement still left to happen. I don't think that all 250 of those kids are going to end up where they say they are at this moment. So getting ready for a big season. I think, Georgia's in a good spot, having a lot of the class done. They'll be able to focus their efforts in a lot of ways and move on to 2025 as well and start recruiting that class in a big way. They're already out to the number one class there. As it stands now. So, a lot going in Georgia's favor, even despite a couple setbacks. And I think that they'll continue to keep that momentum rolling moving into this season. I think that they're set up well for success.
I should also mention Cam Michael is another guy Georgia's very much involved with, too, another defensive back. So, hey, come on over to DawgsHQ. We still got 1 month for $1, or you can sign up for a full year and get 3 months for free. That's kind of how that shakes out. It's worth it. And we're going to be having some notes because I don't know if you know this or not, Roos. Preseason camp is underway at Georgia. You wouldn't know it by the access, which I'm not complaining about, by the way. It's been kind of a blessing in disguise with everything going on that, we haven't had to be up there every day. Fall camp isn't the grind that it used to be. But that's going on, and we're going to have some notes starting tomorrow on some stuff that's going on in preseason camp. Georgia will practice for the 4th time today on Sunday. But Nate Frazier commits to Georgia. I'll go ahead and say it right now. One of the most talented, probably the most talented running back that's committed to Georgia since Zamir White. And, Zamir White obviously had those 2 setbacks, still ended up being a fine back for Georgia. But this kid is the real deal, and fans should be excited about him. And we'll have him covered for you from now all the way up until the end of his career over at DawgsHQ, because that's what we do. All right, everybody take care.